Welcome, you're watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. About 1.5 billion euros has been invested in the renewable energy projects in Ukraine over the past 4 years. In 2018, the installed capacity of renewable energy power plants increased almost 3 times more than a year ago. The renewable energy sector becomes more and more attractive investment prospect and has considerable potential for further growth. To discuss the achievements of renewable energy development, we're joined in the studio today by Kostyantyn Gura. He's an advisor to the head of Ukraine's state agency on energy efficiency and energy saving. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Hello.
So, first of all, let's talk about what types of green facilities mostly were launched in the previous year of 2018.
It was totally right information that this market developed in Ukraine. And of course, most popular projects, it's solar projects. Then we have wind projects. Projects which use wind power to produce electrical energy. Another story is about biomass. We use biomass, we burn biomass to produce heat power and electrical power both. And within 3 last years, once we're speaking about heat power, we add about 2 gigawatts of new heat power capacities, which use not natural gas to produce heat power, but biomass, which helps us to reduce natural gas consumption, which is one of priorities for our government at the moment.
And speaking of the number of green facilities, which region of Ukraine or which territory was the most active in this sphere? Where was the biggest number of such green energy facilities opened?
Okay, when we speak about solar projects, which is most popular in Ukraine, because it's fast to develop, it's good payback periods, etc., etc., then of course, southern part of Ukraine is, the most popular area for development of such projects. But when we speak about biomass projects, it could be all territory of Ukraine, because it depends on how much raw materials you have to burn. And sometimes it's not only in south. So we know that Ukraine is an agricultural country, so all territory of Ukraine could be used for develop biomass projects.
All right. Let's talk about waste-to-waste generation, waste-to-waste energy generation. How are we doing in that sphere?
Actually, it's a big challenge for Ukraine.
Why?
Because we have a lot of waste, and more than 90% of all waste go to the landfills, so it's not recycled. And experience of Europe or USA, for example, showing us that they have opposite situation. 90% it's recycling, and only less than 10% go to the landfills.
What is being done, and in general, what can we do to change the situation?
Yes. And of course we understand this problem, and of course we understand that we can use waste to produce power, to produce electrical power and heat power. According to our consumptions, at least we can replace 1 billion of cubic meters of natural gas if we will use waste to produce energy. What we need to make to develop this market? Of course, first of all, legislation. Because unfortunately now these projects are not really bankable. And now we are working on providing developments or amendments to existing legislation in order to open this market. And in February this last year already, by SAE, by State Agency on Energy Efficiency and Energy Saving, was initiated special meeting, special working group, where we present a list of our proposals to legislation in order to start waste-to-energy market in Ukraine.
On December 20th, the Ukrainian parliament approved a bill on amendments to certain laws of Ukraine regarding the provision of competitive conditions for the production of electricity from alternative energy sources. And the bill aims at creating a legislative framework for introducing competitive principles to support renewable energy facilities. Could you comment?
Yes, of course. Now we have big transition process. At the moment, why these renewable energy projects develop so good, so well in Ukraine? You mentioned that 1.5 billion of euros was invested only in the renewable energy sector. Why? Yes, because originally we have so-called feed-in tariff, which fixed €2, which fixed by till 2030. And that gives to the investors very clear understanding that they can work in Ukraine, they can get their money in euros, They can work till 2030 and pay big period for such projects. It's around 5-6 years. But of course, finally, we all together paying for this. Of course, it's diversification of it's improvement of energy independence of our country, and it's right decision. But now we try to transit from this feed-in tariff system to auction system. That will works as many developers will introduce their price and say, okay, I can work not with 15 euro cents, which is existing feed-in tariff for solar, but with 11 euro cents per kilowatt hour produced. And then different investor will say, okay, I will have 10. And that's who will say 10 will win. And this finally will make renewable energy market more sustainable. And then it will decrease influence on our bills, what we are paying every month for energy.
You've mentioned the experience of Europe and the United States with waste-generated energy. What other opportunities of gaining experience from other countries is Ukraine using? I mean, do we have any projects implemented here on the territory of Ukraine in cooperation with international partners?
I would say that among this 1.5 billion of investments, a lot of investments came from abroad. We have a lot of examples. We have French companies, we have American companies, we have Canadian companies, we have Chinese companies who work already in Ukraine. So, of course, for Ukrainian economy, it's very important to attract new investments because it will make alive our economy.
Any particular project you are especially proud of you would like to talk about?
Me personally?
Yep.
I believe very much in rooftop solar projects in Ukraine because it's really approach what used in Europe and in USA and in Japan, for example. So we try to develop this. We try to work with our international organizations such as IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency, such as UNDP and UNIDA, it's UN-based organizations, to promote energy efficiency. So one of our main developments within 3 last years that we really settle up these negotiations and cooperation with our foreign partners, such as big organizations, as I told you. Our big development that we make that situation when international investors invest in Ukraine. And we provide a set of amendments to existing legislation, which also help Ukraine to become more energy independent. So legislation, investments, and cooperation with international partners.
You mentioned that the biggest part of the money invested in the renewable energy sector in Ukraine came from abroad. How much money were allocated from Ukraine's state budget for the development of this structure?
When we speak about renewable energy projects, it's usually in private investments. But when we speak about energy efficiency, for example, we started our state program, so-called warm loans. It works to improve energy efficiency in residential sector. And here we have some money from budget which we allocate for these purposes. This year it was 400 million hryvnias plus additional 100 million hryvnias. So totally 500 million last year. For this year in existing budget it's predicted 400 million hryvnias only for these warm loans. But we have different initiatives and I know that several billions already fixed for energy efficiency purposes from state budget.
Let's talk about Ukrainians now. Which layer of Ukrainian population is more adaptive and open to renewable energy sources, meaning private business, state-owned enterprises, or regular households?
Of course, when we speak about renewable energy sector, it's private businesses. And somehow it's private households, because now we have legal possibility to install rooftop solar panels, small one, up to 30 kilowatt, on the roofs of private houses. And then owner of this house can sell the surplus of energy which he produced. So he can consume something, and this difference he can sell with feed-in tariff again, which fixed to euro again, to the grid. And for this, he don't need to have any license or special permit. He just install special metering system, even not special, just regular metering system, inform about this regional district companies which spread electricity in regions, and that's it. And when we speak about energy efficiency, coming back to our state program warm loans, I would say that already 525,000 of Ukrainians use these warm loans. How it works? For example, I'm owner of the house or I'm a household association. I can apply to one of our state banks to so-called warm loan, and then government will reimburse me part of principal, part of the loan, from 20 to 70%. 70 if I'm a poor guy. And additional, we adopt regional programs which invest into this program from municipal budgets. They can additionally, these municipalities can additionally reimburse to me or additional part of principal part of the loan or interest rates, which is pretty high in Ukraine. And this makes such projects very bankable, and we have some cases when household made a complex renovation, thermal renovation, install metering system, etc., and payback period for such projects with support of state was less than one heating season, less than 3 months.
That's impressive. Thank you so much for telling us all of this, coming here and shedding light on the situation. That was Kostyantyn Gura. He's an advisor to the head of Ukraine's state agency on energy efficiency and energy saving. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with UATV for more.